it's 7:30 Monday morning, glorious weather as you can see, and I'm about to head into school. I work here at International House Integro in Bielsko-Biala in the south of Poland, and today I'm going to take you through one of my days as an English teacher here. So I'm coming up on 10 years at this school. This Christmas marks my 10th anniversary. I'm still very happy to be here, amazingly. You'd think after a while you'd get tired of a place, but not really. I want to show you what my Monday looks like. It's definitely the busiest day that I have. I actually have 5 lessons on Monday, and they all last 90 minutes. That's an hour and a half. So you can do the maths and see how many hours I'm actually in the classroom for. So I'm going to take you through the day, give you some idea of what it's like to teach here, and yeah, if you have any questions about my life here as an English teacher, please make sure to leave a comment below. All right, I'll see you. So here we are up in the staff room. Let me give you a quick tour, and then I'm going to show you the books that I'm going to be using for the 5 lessons I'm teaching today, and then I'm going to have a coffee because it's still early and I think I need a coffee. So here we are. Here's the staff room first of all. So it's a little bit of a mess here and there. You have to forgive us. We are teachers. We're not you know, urban professionals or something like that, but as you can see, it's a nice big space, room for plenty of teachers here. Lots of people can come up here and do their work. We have got lots of books. Books. Here we've got different games and activity books. We've got textbooks that we're not using this year. So if you're teaching an individual class, you can come and grab one there. We've got a supply of methodology books. That's really useful for any of you out there, you know, like me. I like to brush up on the language. I'm actually doing a master's in applied linguistics and TESOL at the moment. So these books are helpful. Here we've got the exam books. This is a big section full of resources. Then over here, we've got yet more books. Lots and lots. We've got things for young learners. We've got the guided, you know, the penguin readers, the guided readers, some books for children, lots of supplies. Got more supplies over here, lots of games and toys, all sorts. I mean, we've got so much here. And a photocopier that sometimes works. Some say it's also voice activated. But you can never hear what I'm saying. Alright, here are the books I'm going to be using in today's lessons. First, I've got a one-to-one lesson, so I'm actually going to use my own book. This is something that I prepared not too long ago. It's got lots of questions to talk about and pictures to discuss. I had a lot of support from the school when I was writing this, so I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. So that's going to be for my one-to-one student. He's about C1 level, so we'll get a lot of mileage out of that. Next up, I've got a movers class in the primary school. So this class is a little bit different. These are kids at the primary school primary steps here in the building. So I'll be taking them for an hour and a half, and we're going to do some movers practice. The idea is that for some of the students at the end of the year, they'll be able to sit the movers exam. You know, we're actually an exam centre as well, so it's all in-house really. After that, I've got a little break. I'm going to use that break as well as I can, so, you know, probably Facebook. But then I've got some teens at roughly B1 plus level. So we're going to be using code green. Then I've got my younger teens, like the pre-teen class B1. So we've got this Gold Experience book. They're a really chatty bunch of students, so I'm very lucky there. And then I finished the day with my C1 adults. They're in the first of a 2-year CAE program, the Cambridge Advanced. So we're going slowly through this book. We've had about nearly a month now, and we're still in the first unit, but that's fine because you can't rush these things. So here I am in the kitchen. The teachers are told to keep the kitchen clean by themselves, so let's see how they're doing. Actually, you know what? That's not bad. That's not bad for teachers, is it? And here, most important thing in the world right now, at this hour, coffee. Nice, strong Ethiopian coffee in a, what would you call it? French press? Cafetiere? Plunger? I think that's what you put in a toilet, isn't it, when it's stuck? I'm going to go with cafetiere, because I like French words. So I'm going to have my coffee, I'm going to get ready for my one-to-one lesson, and I'll report back to you soon. So just a minute or two to go before my first lesson starts. Just waiting for the student, he should be here any moment. And we're going to take a look at one of the lessons from my book, the 66 Little Lessons. We're also going to look at maybe some Cambridge Advanced preparation work. So it's going to be an hour and a half. One-to-one students are great to teach if you're lucky with them. Usually I am, actually. The majority of the students we get coming through the school seem really intent on communicating, they love talking, and that makes the time just fly by, really. So we're going to do some work and see how it goes.
Hi, I am Anthony. I'm studying English because I want my English to be as good as my Polish. I want to use it in my future as well, for my business and for my relations with other people. I chose my individual lessons so I can improve at the things I'm bad at the moment, so they can get better.
So we've just finished that lesson, and it's about time to go on to the next, which will be in the primary school. This is the movers class, so I'll have to hurry over there as quickly as I can. One thing that we looked at in this lesson was the difference between few and a few with countable nouns. So I'm going to quickly show you what we've got up on the whiteboard as a general rule that you can use for this. So here we go. So right, the idea is that when you're talking about few, we're talking about something close to zero. So this line is zero, it's nothing. But a few is more positive, it's kind of going up. So if we say there are a few places worth seeing here, we're talking about more than zero, but we're making it like a positive orientation. So it is a good thing. Whereas over here we've got few, still with countable nouns, so we've got places again. But here, the idea is that we're at the same spot, close to zero, but when you say few, you're highlighting the negative part. So if we say there are few places worth seeing here, then we're being negative. We're still talking about the same number, but we have a negative approach to it. So that's really the difference between these two. Right, so time for the primary steps class that I'm taking. This is a pre-movers class, so some of them will be ready for the movers exam maybe in the summer, some of them in the next summer. We'll see how it goes. As with all classes, the students develop at different rates. Today we're going to do a review of items of clothing. We started looking at that last week, so trousers, skirt, cap, things like that. And then we're going to move on to looking at parts of the body. I've got to tie all of this together with something a bit Halloween-y. So what I've thought of is I've got the magazines here. Lots of different magazines with pictures in. And we could cut them up into pieces and make like Halloween monsters, like a kind of Frankenstein's monster of parts of the body and different items of clothing. So we'll see how that goes. Now, I wonder if any of the kids from the primary school will have dressed up actually, because it's Halloween. They can come to school with different clothes on. So we'll have a look at that as well. Well, it's very strange. The students don't seem to be here. They seem to be a bit late for the lesson. No sign of anybody. Hopefully they'll turn up in a minute. Well, we didn't manage to get as much work done in that lesson as I was hoping. The parts of the body vocabulary will have to wait until next time, unfortunately, but we did do a good review of clothes, and we did a big Halloween project. Sometimes you just get these sort of lessons where you plan to do something and then things kind of go out of your hands a little bit. Like a lot of trick-and-treaters came round, some people brought sweets and donuts and things like that, and before you know it, half the lesson's gone and you haven't really managed to get anything done. But I'm pretty pleased with the way it went all the same. We maintained discipline, heard some good English in the lesson. The rest of it can wait till next time. So they put together a nice little project in the time available, and I'll show that to you now. So the idea of this project was to make a kind of monster family. As you can see, this group decided to go with just a drawing. This group took magazine pictures and made some interesting collages. Likewise here, this is my favourite. Look at that. That is a strong baby. And an interesting use of a dinosaur head there. This group, very artistically minded. Look at that, it's gorgeous. Those pictures are excellent, really. So characterful and definitely on topic. And then here we've got one with a little bit of text showing different parts of the family. Some sort of a unicorn mother-baby thing there. That's an interesting one. So I'm pretty happy all in all with the way that it turned out with this little project. And when we come back to the vocabulary on parts of the body and on clothing in the next lesson, we'll have their own material to look at rather than just the course book. So, got the first two lessons out of the way. I've just had a bite to eat as well. There's now a little break, got an hour or so. During the break I'm going to do a bit of work on my International House course in teaching young learners. One of the great things about working here in the school in Bielsko-Biala is that they take continued professional development really seriously. I'm very fortunate in that this course that I'm doing, the Young Learner course, is actually provided by the school. I don't have to pay for it as such, just for the certificate and to attend the lessons, but it's really amazing considering what a great expense it is to have a trainer for it and everything like that. So, one of those really worthwhile opportunities for people like me. The other thing I'm going to do during my break, as well as doing a little bit of studying, I'm also going to just tidy up my lesson preparation, the notes that I've got for the three lessons I've got later. Later in the week we're doing the October tests, which are just a quick 20-30 minute test to see how our students are performing so far. So I need to sort that out. You can't leave that to the last minute because that means relying on the photocopier. I think the photocopier senses fear and desperation, and that's when it stops working. So I better do that quickly. I've got a question here from Ario Helmi, forgive me if I've said that wrong, asking if Polish students have any problems because of their specific accent when they try to speak naturally in English. It was an interesting question, I suppose, because there are some big differences between the ways in which Polish works as a language and how English works. I think the biggest difference is that Polish is a phonetic language. And what that means essentially is that when you have a Polish word, you can look at the individual blocks that build up that word and you know how to say the word. Whereas in English, that's kind of true maybe 70-75% of the time, but not always. So that's one problem. So you do get students who don't know yet how to read very well in English, but they know how to read Polish. So they start pronouncing things with a real Polish flavour. The other thing to consider is this thing behind me, which is the phonetic chart. So let's take a quick look at that and what it means for Polish students learning English. So this chart essentially shows all the different sounds that exist in English. and there are some that don't exist in Polish, and there are some that exist in Polish but not in English. So for example, here we've got the sh sound like in shower, and here the z sound like in television. There's one that's kind of just here in Polish. So you have the name Kasia and the food Kasia. I can't say it to save my life. One of them is the person, obviously one's the food, but the sh sound is kind of in between these two a little bit. In Polish, you just don't have these two sounds, either voiced like thumb or unvoiced like mother. So these two are missing from Polish and they have to be taught. There are a lot of other differences as well, especially when it comes to looking at diphthongs, these complex vowel sounds. So one aspect of teaching English to Polish students is being able to get the pronunciation right as they move from one language to the other. So thank you very much for that question. So as always, the lunch break just disappeared. It's gone. And now it's time to crack on with the lessons. So first up, I've got my B1 plus teen class. We're down here in the basement. Got a nice view out the window here. Today we're going to be looking at vocabulary connected to towns and cities. I'm going to do some sort of survey or something to talk to each other. And here are some of my students who are here early, and they're going to say hello.
I'm familiar with house. I'm familiar with my yes, on the house. Nie czytaj tego. Taka.
Oh, okay. Really? Zoom.
Zoom. Okay. So, Zoom. I think we should build a new multiplex now. Maybe here. So, where should we do? Because here's my school. So new swimming. New swimming pool. Okay. I think people have.
Well, that's finished. Not the best lesson I've ever taught. It's difficult with this age group. They're kind of not so serious, maybe a little bit casual with the way that they approach the lessons sometimes. You hear too much Polish being spoken, so a lot of the time it's a problem to get the attention of the students and make sure they stay focused on what they're supposed to be doing. We did get some speaking done, which I'm quite happy with. The vocabulary went quite well. Something to build on, but yeah, definitely not the best lesson I've ever taught, to be honest. Had a good look at some vocabulary, which I can show you now. So we looked at vocabulary connected with the city and the countryside. So we had things like skyscraper, and we looked at, somebody wanted to know, they don't live in the city or the countryside. So we came up with this word, the outskirts, which is the outside part where the city becomes more like the countryside. Then here we've got the adjective urban to describe things that are of the city, and rural, which is quite a difficult word to pronounce for things to do with the countryside. Right, on with the show. Next lesson coming up. Between the lessons we get about a 15-minute break, which isn't very long really, all things considered. My last lesson was downstairs in the basement. I had to come all the way back upstairs to the top of the building to get my books and things for the next lesson in the staff room. And now here I am in the next class. Here I've got teens or pre-teens, B1 level. and we're having a communicative lesson all about learning strategies. How you can learn a language and the other things that you can do to learn languages.
English class. What? Okay. True. Because I learned English class. German to teach some language in that again learn. What can as a teacher? What can you do? Yay!
English, please.
Hello.
Moldova. Kosovo. Kosovo. Malta, no. Kosovo, no.
What is your title? I don't have a title for now.
Okay. First question will be.
I think it can be good at. You can be good at, and for answers.
Very hard quiz. Mister.
Well, all in all, I think that was quite a successful lesson. We spent most of it on Kahoot, which is a nice quiz game that you can play collaboratively. We've actually got a sign on the wall over there saying don't use your mobile phones. Almost the whole lesson we were on our mobile phones, but there was a good reason for it. First we played Kahoot on the board, something language related and geography in English. So country names in English, things like that. And then because we've got our little Unit 1 test on Wednesday, we spent the rest of the lesson making our own Kahoots. One group made a lovely quiz practicing irregular past simple forms. Another one had like the adjectives that we've encountered so far. So in our next lesson, we're going to play those games, and I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. Right, I've got a quick break now, long enough to go and make a cup of tea. And I've got one more lesson left today before I can finally go home. Up next, I've got adults, and it's a C1 level class. It's part of our 2-year Cambridge Advanced class. So I'll go and teach them some new vocabulary and have some conversations and discussions. Right, here we go.
Yeah, and there's more opportunities to talk about the subject. So,
some news, some work.
I didn't know. So we can.
So it's now 8:30. I've just finished the last lesson. I think it went quite well. Lots of speaking activities. The students seemed very happy with what they were doing. It was fun. We were talking about how things have changed since the past. This was kind of connected as well with the loss of Sunday shopping here in Poland. The government has decided that they're not going to do it anymore. So the shops have to be closed on Sundays. So yeah, there's that. I'm exhausted. It's been a good day, but tiring. It's a lot of hours of teaching. I've got a bus in 20 minutes or so, so I'm going to go and put the registers away back in the staff room, get my things together and go and wait at the bus stop, get myself home and relax. So that's the end of a busy day teaching. So I'm back home after a long day at work. It's been a good day. I've enjoyed myself. Monday is the longest day that I have. Tuesday I have quite a few lessons, but it's a little bit easier. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the week kind of trails off. So it's not like every day is as long as this, as demanding as this. So looking at the Facebook comments, I've got one here from Planisemi Darren. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He has a couple of questions. This is pretty good. Or he or she has a few questions. Is it tough teaching English as a second language in Poland? No, I would say not really. I mean, one of the advantages of teaching here in Poland, as opposed to, say, Japan, South Korea, is that the English language is fairly central to what happens here. If you want to learn English, you'll have English lessons at school, usually taught well enough. You're surrounded by easy access to English culture, so I think that it certainly helps. The writing system is reasonably similar, so if you've learned how to read and write in Polish, you're pretty much on the right track when it comes to English, but with some notable differences. Whereas if you are from Japan or China or somewhere like that, the writing system is completely different, and the system of pronunciation is completely different. So I think that makes it a bit harder to learn English in those sort of places. The next question that we've got here, do Polish people like the language? I would say generally yes, although it's hard to say because most of my students seem to like the language, but then they're having English lessons. I don't know about the majority of Polish people. Maybe yes, maybe no, it depends on their own personality. And the last one is, are all English teachers here in Poland Polish? Well, obviously not, as I'm not Polish myself, I'm English. International House doesn't necessarily prefer to employ native speakers. They want qualified professionals. So we've had teachers from a number of different places in the past and at the moment as well, and to my mind they're just as good. I've met a lot of English teachers from England, or Britain at least, who knew the language but didn't know how to teach it, or couldn't explain language points because they didn't know what things meant. They didn't know what present perfect was, for example. So I think if you have somebody with a lot of knowledge of the language, it doesn't really matter where they come from. If they can teach well, then they're somebody who you want to have. So thank you to those of you who have left comments on the post on Facebook. Hopefully you'll get to see this video, and if anyone else out there watching this video is curious about anything that I've shown here, do leave a comment below. I'm happy to respond to every question we get, so send me your questions. Thank you very much for joining me on this journey through my day today. I'll see you next time we do something like this again. Bye.